shine like gold, and I can't help when I touch you. Waiting on my soul weighs you down. We should let it go. I stuck around too long. The thought is on my mind to get away from you. Come up on my back, I only lose. Should've never been so quick taking my love away. I'm involved with two girls I can't. I've got this blood on my hands. I've got this blood on my hands. And the only things that we're afraid to talk about. I've been waiting for my heart to break. I've got this blood on my hands. I've got this blood on my hands.
Good evening.
Quick trip into Japan, yeah, the flight way. Met a bad Asian thing. Neck on ice.
I hope everybody's doing well. I know I am. It's been a good weekend here in New York. Finally getting warmer. And I was thinking about last night's stream, and I wanted to do like a continuation of that. I want to do a continuation of this magnetism that women have to domination and submission. And I was getting more into the why they like it, but I remembered I also wanted to talk about why they're afraid to really admit it. You know, because it's a big problem. I'm certainly glad I'm a man in the sense that I've got a little bit more freedom to own my sexuality in that sense. I know a lot of guys who are simpish or whatever, and they hate women. Excuse me. And they'll say, well, look at all these women who are on OnlyFans. They're owning their sexuality. You know, they're fucking, 10 dudes every week. When that's actually not the truth. But so I wanted to talk about how women, what I'm talking about is not sex, right? I'm not talking about sexual submission, right? I'm talking about submission as a whole. Submission as a whole. And they how they crave it, right? Because it's a release. It's like we talked about this last night. About how it's a release from who they are, from who they are throughout the day, who they have to be, and all the different things they have to keep in mind about going throughout the day, and having to function and shit like that, and how allowing themselves to go into subspace, to trust themselves, to trust somebody else, to bring them there. It's a huge feat. But the thing is that they're afraid because of a couple of things. All right, so we're going to talk about those fears in just a little bit, and then just before I came on, I like to put on a little bit of cologne before I stream. Just kind of helps me get into the feels of the headspace and where I need to be. So we'll talk a little bit about fragrances because I and my son have been developing our collections and learning a lot, and it's really interesting stuff. So we'll go heavy and we'll go light. So to continue on about what we were talking about last night as far as submission goes, and they love it, but there's also this fear. So on one hand, there's a fear of revealing this to the public, right, in such a way that it will be gone after and abused by men who don't know what they're doing. And this is the lustful man. This is the man who he's too hungry, and his animal instincts will take control, and this is going to turn into something disastrous. So she has to protect herself from this. The woman can't really reveal her submissiveness, because what that requires on the other end is someone to lead it and guide it, right? Because it has no form of its own. It requires a container. It requires containment and direction. Okay. And I was explaining this to a new client of mine, young guy. This guy is actually really great. He's only 20 years old, and he has a fantastic knowledge of BDSM, but from like just an instinctual level. It's really interesting talking with the kid. And so he's a natural dominant. He just doesn't know the technical and critical aspects of it, but it's in him naturally, which is really interesting and very refreshing. So it's more like learning. He's just having to educate himself, which is pretty cool. But anyways, I was explaining to him about how the importance of him having to become this container, because the deeper her submission, the deeper her trust, the more her mind turns off, the more her heart opens up, the softer she becomes, the more you have to be a substantial container. Like, you can't be made out of paper mache. So it's a 1-to-1 ratio balance between. So the softer she is, it has to be equaled by your firmness. And so the more trust she puts into you equals the amount of trust that you have to have in yourself. The equal to the lack of disbelief that you have in yourself, the doubt, the self-doubt. And that's how things are balanced. And when she's doubting you, because you're doubting yourself, or you're making, you're being wishy-washy, or you don't seem to have direction, or you're second guessing, or you're afraid. Her liquid, right? When she is in let's just say her liquid state of being very submissive and feminine and engaging with her core, it becomes thicker, right? The viscosity gets thicker. She becomes more gelatinous, right? And then that becomes even thicker and thicker and thicker, depending on if you have more doubt, or she's getting the sensation that you are second guessing yourself, that you don't know what's going on, that you don't trust yourself. There's uncertainty created by you. So that will cause her to become more and more firm. The viscosity will get thicker and thicker and thicker. And if it gets so much on your end, she will then become a solid. And that's how that works. Okay. So it all works hand in hand. It's all balance. It's all yin and yang shit. Okay. So like I was saying about the fear, if she's surrounded by say 100 guys, let's say there's 100 guys that she's in contact with, there's a very small percentage of them that will actually know how to harness and not just consume her submission. That's how it will work. Her submission, because once it's softer, okay, like softer foods are easier to consume, right? Like you can drink an entire carton of yogurt through a straw. You know what I'm saying? It's easier to consume something that's soft versus a very dense, harder food, so to speak, that you have to chew and break up and cut up and make it smaller for mastication. So that's what happens. So she's become softer, and so she can be more easily consumed. And this is dangerous to her, because of those 100 guys, who actually knows how to manage her and not just consume her and be like, oh, that was so good, where's the next one, right? And that's where it becomes dangerous for her. Okay, because yes, she wants to be devoured, on one level by her man, but she doesn't want to be consumed, right? Because after consumption, there's nothing left. And that's where the danger lies. And so while she would love to be more in touch with her femininity, more in touch with subspace, she doesn't know that the man who's in front of her or the men who are in front of her are capable of handling her when she's in that state, and instead just use her because she has no idea how controlled your consuming lust is. Right? And some people might say, well, you know what? Fuck that. I don't give a shit. Okay. And that's fine, right? You're entitled to live how you want to live. But you're not going to get very far. And that's the problem, right? You're just going to be consuming and you move to the next thing. And, you know, it's very, I don't know, very like animal like. And, you know, if you want to live that way, that's totally fine. You know, I'm not here judging, but you can't come back and say, well, you know, the woman doesn't really want to stay with me. She doesn't, I've not captured her soul. She doesn't seem to want to worship me. She doesn't seem to want to become part of me, you know, like a symbiote. That's not there. You don't have the ability to complain. There's no room for you to complain about her lack of willingness to become part of you, right? Because you're just way down here. Your vibration is way down here, and all you want to do is just consume. And so if you're going to do that, just accept that that's the mode, that's the level that you're at, okay? You don't have to go higher. Right. But if wherever you're at, you can't complain of the aspects that come with it. All right. Just like somebody else who decides to go deeper and have, let's say, a more sophisticated means of interaction, you can't complain either, because there's every choice you make, any choice in life you make is going to come with some form of a shit sandwich. Some form. There's going to be some thing like that you have to manage, some form of responsibility. And so that's what it is when you have the higher levels. When she becomes part of you and she starts allowing herself to become very liquid, and you now have to hold this container, you're now responsible for a lot of things depending on how deep it gets. And this is this is part of the shit sandwich. You have to manage things, right? Because the more her will releases off into you, you're now, whatever that percentage is, if you want to put a number on it, you're now responsible for that percentage. Okay. And dynamics vary, right? Some have high levels, like almost 100% of her will is given to her dom. She doesn't think at all. She doesn't make any fucking decisions at all. It's like when to sleep, when to move, what to drink, what to eat, when to exercise. Like basically blinking and breathing are the only things that she has control over, and not really control, because those are involuntary. And so that's like a one extreme. And then there's things in between, and then there's ones that are like far less control, but there's always going to be a degree of her entrusting some aspect of her will to you. If not that, then a great deal of her emotions. Because with vulnerability comes emotions, like a great deal of them. And if you can't handle them, if you don't know how to handle them, because you yourself are, you know, either ill-equipped or uneducated or very emotional yourself, this is going to be a problem. You're not going to be able to function your program very well, because it's just not organized. Right. So that's one of the fears. Is a fear that it could go terribly wrong. Right. So she has to hold back this aspect of herself. And, you know, a woman can go through an entire lifetime not tapping into her feminine core. Right. Because it can't just be out. A lot of guys would say, you know, like there's that old thing. What have I heard so many times? Women saying, and guys getting pissed off about it, women will say, I can be feminine for the right masculine man. And guys take that personally. They're like, why? That's just part of your nature. Just be feminine. You don't need a man to be feminine. And when they say that and I hear it, I'm like, oh, you don't realize how deep this goes. Sure, they can maybe on the surface become maybe a little bit more feminine, maybe less argumentative or less brash or less assertive, but that's really surface level behaviors. That doesn't go deep into their psyche. That doesn't go deep into their identity. It doesn't go deep into their emotions. Nothing like that, right? So when I hear guys say that and they scoff at when women say this sort of thing, it tells me that they don't fully understand how deep the shit goes. Okay, so that's one aspect of it. The other fear that comes into play with women's submission and their and tapping into that feminine core and turning off the mind, turning off the control, right? Because that's really what it comes down to. Is control. The bigger fear, and I think this is a bigger fear, is the fear of losing self. So let's say she gets with a guy, she likes him, she may even love him, and she's slowly letting go of control. And because she's trusting that he's going to just be there to take care of her inner world, right? The outer world, that's to be determined by the relationship and how that gets worked out. But anyways, so as she's letting go bit by bit as the months go on or something like that, there's this fear of losing the self. And this is a huge fear. I mean, especially when it's contrasted with current Western culture, where there's a strong push for women to have a very strong identity, and just like the "you go girl" culture, right? Hopefully, I'm gonna just check my settings really quick. Settings, sound, input there, output. Check 1 2. Okay, I'm good. I think I'm good. Yeah. So yeah, so really the bigger fear that's involved, with her submission is the loss of identity, because it's not like there's any other experience in life that comes close to this. And so it's this inching towards the edge of the cliff, and then it's like, well, what happens if I jump off? Like, I kind of want to because I'm curious. Part of my instinct is telling me that I want to, but what's going to happen? Am I going to die, or can I come back if it doesn't work out? If it doesn't work out, will I be having to be admitted into a mental institution? Like, what's going to happen? And some women, they get to do this, and I would say that a very small percentage, actually jump off that cliff. For the most part, most women in these situations that say, all right, I want to go into this, they will not jump off the cliff. They'll kind of go off the edge and then slowly climb down that cliff face instead of jumping. And it becomes a process. And that's really what it's about. That's really what you're going to experience if you're in a DS dynamic. It's a process of deepening, and her slowly letting go of control, foot by foot. And sometimes, truth be told, she'll go down a few feet and then come back up, and then go down a few feet more and then come back. So it's like sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back, and then 3 steps forward, and then 1 step forward, and then 3 steps back. That's the way it works. Okay, it's not just this like linear thing, and you think, all right, well, I'm a trustworthy guy. I know what the fuck I'm doing. I've got a great program. I have love. I have control. I know what's going on. That she's just going to fall in line. like all the way down to the core of her being. Like it doesn't work that way. Maybe on the surface, right? She might fall in line, like when it comes to certain behaviors, rules, and so on. But I'm talking about the release of her control, her release of her will, and the softening of her identity. Like those are much deeper things. Like that's real submission. Her being like the girl in the, to the side of me here, that's not real submission. That's just playing submission. That's having fun with it. Okay. Now we don't know. Like this girl, this hypothetical AI model, maybe she is really submitted, and this is how she likes to express herself sometimes, or she's not at all, and she likes to play the role of submission. So don't get confused by a girl's surface level, like your perceived behaviors of a girl, that she's submissive simply because she's saying yes sir or yes daddy, or she's putting on nice clothes, or she's cooking you food, or sucking your dick whenever. Like that's not, like that can be cosplayed, that can be copied. Okay. So like the real shit takes time. It really takes time. And if it doesn't take time, then your alerts have to be on. Okay, because a lot of times now this doesn't come up often, but a lot of times if the girl is really ready to jump off that cliff and just fall into submission, like real submission that I'm talking about, there's likely problems there. There's likely a lot of trauma. There's a lot of damage. There's shit that she has not worked through, and she's looking to escape from everything by releasing herself. So it's not this willing heart that lets go of control. She's trying to run away from all this shit that she has inside her. So she doesn't have to think or feel it anymore. All she has to do is think and feel what you're doing and what you want. Okay. And there's dudes who will grab that up. They'll drink it up real fast. Okay. So, but I would be wary of that. In the community, it's called sub frenzy. Okay. And sub frenzy is characterized by just this super willingness to do whatever you want. And they have no idea about limits. They have no conception of safe words. They will do anything. And without warming up to the idea, like they would just say, hey, I have no limits. Okay. That's a big fucking red flag. Someone who says, I have no limits. I don't believe it. Right. And that's not a green light for you to see how far you can push things. Okay. But to me, that says that either this person is extremely uneducated and inexperienced, and they're just really excited to jump into shit. And that's where you will see sub frenzy. There's a lot of ignorance that comes with that. Or they've got a fuck ton of problems and they're looking for an escape, like a fast, deep escape, like basically just shooting up with heroin. It's like a similar thing. So I would be wary for all that shit. Okay. Another reason to have your sexual lust under control. Okay. Because imagine it's the latter, not the former. That you have this chick who's badly damaged and she's looking to escape very quickly into you. And because you have sexual lust and hunger on the forefront, you're just going to jump right in and be like, oh my gosh, this is great. Right. Not having the ability to be what I call being 12 inches back and 12 inches up, so that you are not fully detached, but you're just slightly detached from the situation so you can observe, see, and understand, without getting too pulled in to bullshit. Okay. And lust will absolutely pull you into bullshit without a doubt. So that was the bit that I left out from the stream from last night about the, women love it, but there's also a bunch of fear that's involved. And I'm bringing this up so that guys can understand that it's not like it's not such a simple thing, and not to get worked up if things aren't moving faster or moving in the direction that you want, or you're in a position where you're criticizing and judging women for this or that, or like, oh, why is she doing this or why can't she do that? It's like you have to widen your scope. You have to widen your scope and see more. Okay, pull the camera back so you can observe more of what the hell's going on, and not just be sitting there like stuck with your wants. Okay, this won't let you understand. Okay, because when you're let's say you guys get into a dynamic, and I know like a lot of you guys, you want to create and build a dynamic. You want to have this kind of fun. You want to get into the depths of things. You want to experience some of the things that I'm talking about, and I don't blame you. It's extremely enriching. Okay, it's not like any other kind of relationship that you will ever have in your life. And so I get that you want to get into this stuff, but you have to understand there's so many levers and so many layers to these things that are happening. And if you get into a dynamic, you're going to be getting into this stuff. You're going to be facing parts of your psyche that you didn't realize were there, or that you've been ignoring or sweeping under the rug, and same with hers. Parts of her psyche is going to come up out of the shadows, and it's going to show its ugly face, and you have to be there to manage this shit. You have to be there to be part of it, to integrate and to understand how to deal with it. And depending on what it is, there's going to be multiple ways to handle this stuff. Okay. But that's just part of it, right? Like I said, every choice, there's a bit of a shit sandwich that you have to deal with. So it's like, you want to go deep? Well, you have to deal with the things that are in the depths. If you don't want to deal with it, then just, fuck chicks and stay on the surface level. But don't complain. The part of your shit sandwich, if that's what you do, is that you don't experience depth. And that's fine if you don't care about depth. I've got a fellow coach, he could give a flying rat's ass. He doesn't care. It's like, just the woman can come over, fuck, and then I'm calling her an Uber. That's it. I don't care about anything that's meaningful. I don't care about her psyche. I don't care about going deep. I don't care about affecting her. I don't care about influencing her. I don't care about leaving her better than I found her. Don't give a fuck. I just want what I want and then be done with it. Like fast food, right? And that's fine. Okay? Your choices are your choices. But again, just whatever you choose, don't complain about what comes with it. That's it. Okay? So, but yeah, if you have any questions, I know this is kind of like heavier side of things. But if anyone has any questions about this stuff, just get my contact details in the chat. I'm sorry, not the chat, but in the description of the videos, and hit me up and we can have a discussion and level these things out. All right. So yeah, I wanted to shift gears here, talk about fragrances. As I've been growing my collection and learning quite a bit about stuff. One of the great things I learned was the Middle Eastern fragrances. There's a number of really good companies. Now, if you're not into heavy scents, then don't fuck with them. All right, like one of them is called Latafa, and they're a great brand. But because in the Middle East, their fragrances have a history of being just straight oils, right? So like I'm here in New York, there's like Arabic like perfumeries and stuff, and you walk in and it's just thousands of bottles of oils of all different kinds, okay? And it's like really strong, and they put the 100% concentrate oils on their body, and all you need is just a couple of dabs and like poof, you're covered in this like high performing smell. Okay, if you're not into that, if you're not into the stronger scents, don't even bother with the with the Middle Eastern companies, because of their history of this, their fragrances, like their colognes and their perfumes, are just as strong. They're not just as strong, but they're just slightly less strong. But they're very rich, like a lot of spices and chocolate sort of notes, like oud and a lot of woods. I don't know, it's just really unique. And so the one that I put on just before streaming, it's a dupe. So I've been like researching dupes, because one of my favorite brands, and I highly suggest you check them out, is Parfums de Marly. And Parfums de Marly is a French company, and their stuff smells so fucking good. Like, it's ridiculously good. But they're really expensive, really expensive. So not super expensive, but I mean, for fucking cologne, sure. Like on FragranceNet fragrancenet.com, for a 4.2 ounce, okay, 4.2 ounces, that's not a lot at all, is $232. Okay, and I've seen these bottles go upwards of slightly over 300. Like their travel spray, a 0.27 ounce travel spray is $20, right? I think that's 1 ml. Just those little sticks with the, it's like maybe 7 to 10 sprays in there, and so that's $20. But they're a really good company, very sophisticated smells, but I'm not dropping $300 on a bottle of cologne. So there's this company that I found, and I'm not sponsored by them or anything like that. They're called the Dua brand, right? And they have gone in and made duplicates of a number of like really popular brands, and one of them is the Parfums de Marly. And so I grabbed up one of theirs, and it's fantastic, really good shit. And it's called Duo Formula 003, and this one it's a duplicate of Greenlee, right? Okay, so Parfums de Marly makes a scent called Greenlee, and so Greenlee has it's green, it has a green smell, woody, slightly sweet, with some black pepper notes, and it's fucking fantastic. So they've got the Leighton, the Parfums de Marly. They have Leighton, Percival, Pegasus, Alphane, Carlisle, and like a number of them. They've got like so many fragrances. So what you can do is you can go on to the Dua brand website, and I can just put this in the chat, but the Dua brand website, and just look around. And look around and just get samples of, so like if you're like Tom Ford is another one that's like really fucking expensive for a lot of his shit. So if you're into Tom Ford, you can get samples of like a duplicate, and they're really close, because I've smelled the original Greenlee and the Dua brand Greenlee, and geez, it's got to be 97% accurate. So that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. So check those out, and it'll give you the chance to do the sample thing. Or if you want the real thing, what you do is you go on eBay and just type in, say like Tom Ford, what's fucking fabulous. That's one of his fragrances. You just type in like Tom Ford fucking fabulous sample, and there's these stores on eBay where they've got a fuck ton, like a huge list, and you just select all the brands that you want, and they'll send you little 1 ml samples. And depending on the popularity of the brand, it varies. So it could be range from like, I don't know, $4 to $12 for one of those samples. So obviously the more popular ones, they're going to charge more. Like Creed Aventus is like $12 for like a little 1 ml sample. But yeah, check out those things, and check out the Dua brand. Really good shit, and it performs well. Like, so it stays with me for it performs like, has like a good distance from me, and it lasts a good while. Okay. So about lasting a good while, for those of you who don't know, it's important to understand about concentrations. Okay. And so if you haven't looked into any of this shit, it's good to know. So if you look at, say, if you buy something and you like use it and you're like, fuck, like this, it doesn't last long. Right. And I've got a few of these. Like, I love the way they smell, but they only last like 2 hours and then it's gone. And that's because the concentration is pretty low. Okay. And it's just the oil concentration. So the lightest is fresh, I don't know how to pronounce it. Fraiche. And it's got 1 to 3% concentration. So that is going to be gone in like fucking maybe an hour or less. And then the next one is eau de cologne. And then, so when you say cologne, you know, people get it wrong. They're like, oh, cologne is for men and perfumes are for women. And that's incorrect. Like, the words cologne and perfume, they actually have to do with the concentration, right? So a cologne or eau de cologne has 2 to 4%. So it's very light, right? There's barely anything in there. It's very light. And then the rest is all filler. Okay, like the not filler, but the vehicle liquids is, you know, alcohols and things like that. The next one is eau de toilette or EDTs, and these have about 5 to 15% concentration, and these last a little longer, like 3 to 4 hours. The next ones are eau de parfum, and these are a little bit more intense, right? So that's the EDP, right? This is my favorite level, right? Is the EDP. And this is like 15-20% concentration, and it's like 4 to 5 hours, right? Also depending on the types of oils, because certain types of oils will last longer than other types. And then the last one is parfum, right? And it's just the highest. Well, I don't know. It might be concentrate, or or extract. I think extract is actually the highest amount. It might be like 40 to 50%, and that's very intense. So, but the parfum is 20 to 30%, and this is very powerful, really concentrated, and it's like 6 to 8 hours. And so I have not actually even seen any of these. I've seen EDC, EDT, and EDP. I've not actually seen parfums or eau fraiche on sale in any store, right? So they're probably pretty rare, because who's going to buy shit that's like that weak or that fucking strong, right? So yeah, that's a little bit about the concentrations. So, you know, when you're shopping for your fragrances, be sure to ask, if you can't see it on the label, whether it's like an EDT or an EDP or an EDC, and just make your decision based on that. And what's also interesting is that the concentration also changes the way it smells. All right. So I've got Dior Sauvage as an EDP and as an also as an EDT, and they don't smell alike at all. They're completely different. So, you know, just know that. So if you're like interested in something and you're like, oh, I'll get the EDP version, it's likely not to be the same. All right. But I think it's just in general, guys, it's really important to understand fragrances. The rabbit hole is deep on fragrances, and the best thing to do is to just expose yourself to as much as you possibly can. You know, it's kind of like wine in that sense, where you find out like what's good simply by experiencing it, by drinking it. So you have to experience a lot of different fragrances to figure out like what's good for you. And then there's the other factor of your own biology. So you might smell something in the store and, you know, on a strip and be like, ooh, that's hot. And then you put it on your own skin and you let it absorb and let all the different layers of notes interact with your biochemistry. Now it doesn't smell so good. And I've experienced that before too, unfortunately, after buying. And so I get it home and I'm wearing it and I'm like, man, this does not smell like the way it did in the store when the lady gave it to me on a test strip. And and that can happen, right? So just know that like your own biochemistry can affect how these fragrances perform. Okay. And you might love it, you might hate it, but I don't know. My girlfriend has this rule where she says, if you can smell yourself, then it's not good. Right? So if you put it on and you can still smell that fragrance, her rule is that means that it's not bonding well with your skin. It's not bonding well with your biochemistry, and therefore you should just switch to a different thing. Even though you might love it, she would say that this is not something that you should be wearing. So yeah, check out Dua brand, or there's tons of dupe companies out there. If you want to get something that's very close to the originals without breaking the bank. But yeah, those are some things. I want to start going to like conventions and shit. That's what I would like to do. Go to some fragrance conventions, but there's only a couple, and the only one that I know of that's really big is in Dubai. But that shit's got to be fucking crazy. Because I know I've seen these kids on YouTube. They got like hundreds. Like these little kids, it's like hundreds of bottles behind them in their studio, and they're sitting there talking about different things. And it's funny that they have these channels and they're giving advice on fragrances. And it's kind of stupid because, again, like you don't know how they're affecting or like interacting with your skin. And two, everyone's taste is different, right? So like, for example, like my son, he really likes Jean-Paul Gaultier. He really likes Jean-Paul Gaultier. I can't stand it. I can't stand Jean-Paul Gaultier. Like, to me, like JPG smells like a rich old gay man. That's what it makes me think of. Like a rich old sophisticated gay man. I don't want to smell like that. And they also use like a lot of vanilla notes in their stuff. It just doesn't vibe with me. I'm not saying that it's bad, but it's not something that I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to wear that. Like, I'm going to drink it. It smells so good. But Parfums de Marly, absolutely. I smell that shit and I'm like, fuck yes. Like it's so rich that I love everything about it. But, that's just me. So it's just interesting that there's a lot of channels on YouTube about fragrances, and they're telling you, oh, this is great, or you got to try this, and this is good, that's good. When it's like wine, like, I've had expensive bottles of wine that I've not liked because I just didn't like it. Like, it didn't matter like how famous it was or how well it was regarded. It just didn't appeal to me, and that's just how my tongue is. I was like, yeah, it's okay. It's like kind of mid. And I've had cheaper bottles of wine and they've been fantastic. Right. So it just comes down to your own taste. So it's just weird that they have these channels like telling people to get this and this is awesome and that's awesome. And it's like, well, how do you know that I think it's fucking awesome? Right? Like, shut up, kid. But they're doing well. They got massive viewership, massive following. So whatever. Maybe they're helping somebody out. So very good. All right. Well, if there's no questions about this, about fragrances or about this submission and the fear of submission, right? Women are afraid to admit that shit because, I think I made it very clear. Then I think I'm going to pull this to a close and relax and get on some Call of Duty and just chill out with the dogs. All right. Until next time. I appreciate you guys being here for the live, and I appreciate those of you who are watching on the replay. Again, if you have any questions or you want to get in touch with me, find the links in the description of this video and every other video. We can have a chat for free. We can talk about your dating life, your sex life, your marriage, your girlfriend, BDSM, power dynamics, what have you. Okay? Or we can talk fragrances. I love that shit too. All right, guys. Until next time, take it easy.